Hello there and welcome to this Astranti video on how to pass your P1 exam. We'll be taking you through the exam, giving you some quick tips, and towards the end we'll give you some resources which will help you pass that all-important P1 exam. Now, I would love to tell you that the P1 exam isn't anything to worry about, but unfortunately this is the operational level exam that students have historically found the most difficult. While E1 and F1 pass rates hover around 80%, the P1 pass rate is around 50%, and for that reason we've got this video to help you be one of those 50% that passes. So to start you off with our first tip, our tip is that students should take the P1 exam last. It means you'll have more time to get familiar with objective test exams by sitting the other two before you reach P1, and also materials from P1 make up around 50% of the OCS, operational case study exam, and for that reason you'll want it fresh in your mind when you go in for that case study. The point of this video isn't to scare you, the point is to help you understand the P1 exam, what's in it, the syllabus, etc., and then to give you some tips on how we'd recommend you go about passing it. So without further ado, let's get going with the syllabus for P1. So the CIMA P1 syllabus covers four main areas. These are costing, budgeting, short-term decision making, and risk and uncertainty. If some of these seem familiar too, they may have appeared in your day-to-day job, or you may remember them from BA2 if you sat that exam, or the Intro to Management Accounting if you've gone through the FLP route. There will be a mix of numeric and theoretical questions in P1, as this is management accounting, both those skills are very important, and therefore you'll need to practice. And whoever you choose to go with as your tuition provider, you'll need to make sure that you have practice objective test questions as well as study materials to help you through any topics that you're finding more difficult. No matter what tuition provider you go through, make sure that their learning is guided by the CIMA syllabus and you should be on the right path. So now what are some of the harder specific topics you might come across in P1? So the first one we'd say is methods of costing. It can be difficult sometimes to truly differentiate between these different methods, think of the advantages and disadvantages between them, and occasionally to wrap your head around some more complicated ones, such as activity-based costing, which you may have been less likely to use in your day-to-day job. Second is variance analysis. Now, the actual calculations you'll have to perform in this area aren't too difficult. However, there are over 20 you will need to remember, and therefore memorization can be quite difficult, and practice will help solidify these in your memory. Third, we've got budgeting. So this now makes up 25% of the CIMA P1 chapter, and there isn't a whole lot of content for it. Often these questions are more applied, and you'll have to think about it in the context of the question you're given. And fourth, we've got trend calculation, linear regression, and the correlation coefficient. Now, this is about using statistical methods to measure and forecast trends in data. So if you've not had time to study this area for months before, you may find this more difficult. The formulae may look quite complicated, but you will be given them in the exam, so therefore you just need to know how to use it successfully. So CIMA P1 is difficult, but we've got 25 years of experience in helping students to pass this exam, and we are going to pass on some of that to you now in this video for free. So number one is understand the content. You'll need to understand every part of the P1 syllabus, as this is an objective test exam which will test a broad range of your knowledge over all the questions. Therefore, you'll need to find a good set of study notes or tuition videos, or find a great lecturer at a local college who can help you understand these topics. Simple things do count here. For example, asking questions to your lecturer. This will help make a huge difference in your passing rate, as students who have the confidence to ask a question before tend to find they don't make that mistake in the actual exam. Number two is to test your understanding. So by doing questions, providers like Astranti will often supply practice questions after each tuition video or after each stage of the study text, and therefore you'll be able to practice your skills and make sure that you really do understand what you've learnt. It's not a restrictive. For example, if you do some Astranti study questions, it doesn't mean you can't then go and do some Kaplan ones. The more practice you can do, the better really for passing your exam. However, make sure that the solutions provided are good. You don't want to be answering a question and then not understanding why you got it wrong and what you can work on. You'll want to make sure that an explanation for the solution is provided, so that way you can work on it better in the future. Number three, memorizing the content. Now, it's not good enough to just understand the content and then forget it. You'll need to commit it to your memory. Therefore, things like making flashcards or sheets of paper can be helpful for understanding the exam. For example, a good thought exercise you can do is if you think you've understood a topic, think about how you would go about writing out everything you know about it on a sheet of paper. Would you remember everything that's important? If not, then something could come up in the OT exam about an area that's less committed to your memory, and you might either take more time to answer it or not be able to answer it at all, which wouldn't be great for your chances of passing. You might also be tempted to skip memorizing any calculations given that you get some of them in the exam. However, this wouldn't be the best idea. You want to make sure that you're not spending time looking at the calculation, trying to work out where each part of the formula goes. You'll want to be able to have it in your memory, quickly write out an answer, and move on to the next question. And number four, mocks, and more mocks. Unfortunately, the CIMA P1 exam is not just an academic subject that you can think about from afar, it's something you'll need to be able to apply under exam conditions. Therefore, we'd recommend that taking all the practice material that a provider can give you and taking material from other providers too. You should also make sure that you spend time reviewing why you got things wrong and, if necessary, asking questions from a tutor at the company you're working with, so that way you can better understand where you're going wrong and not make that mistake in the future in the real exam. And number five, our tip for the actual exam is to do it in passes. Now, what do we mean by passes? We don't just mean passing the exam, although this will help you do that. What we mean is that you should go through the exam paper first and firstly answer all the easy or short questions you can get through, and then you can spend more time on the more difficult questions. Then you can spend some more time writing out the ones you know, but any ones that you get stuck on or feel less confident about, you can flag those with an asterisk, and then on your third pass, you'll go through those. Now, remember that since there's no negative marking, you should have a go at all these questions, but you don't want to spend too much time on the trickier ones and miss easier marks on the ones that you would definitely get right. So, this method of going through in passes tends to help students maximize their marks. Now, so far, this is all about passing the exam, but what happens if you don't? This can be a tricky subject as obviously it's quite personal. You might have had different reasons for not passing an exam. However, it's not the reason to give up. As we've said before, around 50% of P1 students don't pass on the first attempt. However, this doesn't mean that they will never pass again. Lots of students do fail a P1 exam and then go on to do very well in their CIMA qualification, and this could be you if this happens, so don't give up. At Astranti, we have a pass guarantee. That means that if you fail the P1 exam, you'll be able to sit it again as long as you've done the required amount of mocks and liaised with us enough so that we know that you've given it your best shot, essentially. Now, I did promise you some access to some free resources at the end, which will help you pass your exam. And at Astranti, we've got just that. We've got a P1 webinar for our students. We've got a P1 cheat sheet, which will help you memorize different things you'll need to know for the exam. And we've got free P1 materials that will help your learning. So if you're interested in that, head over to astranti.com and talk to one of our customer service team who will be able to help you out. And thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again in another Astranti video.